as a guy, an NFL insider, as I said, with your show on Odyssey that goes worldwide every Sunday from 11 till 1 Eastern Time.
I've been a big fan of Penix all year. The only pushback that you actually could have on Penix would be, how about the injuries, though? Are you worried about injuries? He's had knee injuries, and you know, he's also a 6-year college guy, so that's something. He's a little bit older. And I'm not saying those are huge negatives, but certainly that's something I think you got to think about, because when you're talking about drafting anywhere in the upper parts of the first round, you need to have almost everything line up to be just about right? Especially anybody who's willing to make a trade. So on the mock draft side of things, there are 2 teams right now that have 4 picks. So 4 of the first 23 picks are owned by 2 teams. One of them is your Chicago Bears, pick number 1 and pick number 9. And then there's the Minnesota Vikings. And the Minnesota Vikings have number 11 and number 23. Well, if you look right now at where the quarterbacks are stacked up to where they're going to be allegedly going, Caleb Williams, number 1, that's it. End of story. So there's one of them. What does Chicago do for number 9? Well, Chicago's going to take probably a receiver, because they actually got rid of one of their receivers. They need a receiver, and maybe they actually go after Penix's receiver, Odunze. So that wouldn't be the stupidest thing in the world. You've got a quarterback. Now you're giving him a great receiver, one of the best in the country. That's what people are looking at. So where does that put the Vikings then of these picks? Of all these quarterbacks, and everybody says the Vikings are going to use those 2 as draft capital to move up a little higher so they can get somebody else. Well, supposedly, John, from what I'm hearing, the pick at number 6, which is owned by the Giants, is already being filled by JJ. Everybody's after him. Everybody thinks that he is the right guy right now, John. So I find it pretty interesting that over time, and JJ McCarthy has done a really good job. We've talked about him. The problem is he a system guy, or is he that great at quarterback right now that he can step in there? His old coach Harbaugh says he is. Now, is he gaming people? Is he trying to get people to move up a little bit or whatever? Who knows? But I think that the reality is, if he goes up to the Giants, Vikings are not going to be able to get up there. So the Vikings at 23, first, I think the Vikings probably take a corner, John. The number 1 corner in the entire draft is right up there for the Vikings. I think that would be great. Kid out of Toledo. He's big, he's fast, he's unbelievable. But at 23, you know who's still going to be there? Penix. And I think they take Penix at 23. I think that they've fallen in love with what he can do, very much like we were just listening to just now, where this guy's been through it. And as I said, he's got experience. He was at Indiana for a couple of years, goes to Washington, has an incredible career with Washington. His numbers every single year just got better and better and better. And matter of fact, John, 36 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 65% completion. I'd say that's pretty damn good. It's not quite Bo Nix numbers, but for whatever reason, there are a lot of people out there who seem to like all the other quarterbacks except for Bo Nix. And even Penix is kind of, I think, pushed down to 23. Probably shouldn't be that low, but if he is, I think he's going to the Vikings.
Well, I'd say also, Pete, that there's a great quarterback in Cincinnati who, since he's been a pro, has been to the Super Bowl, has played great, but has been often injured. And that is Joe Burrow. Is he injury prone? No, I don't believe so. I think these hits that he's taken have been, some pretty serious hits. And I don't think Penix is injury prone either. But if you can, obviously Burrow is a franchise quarterback, I think. So how couldn't Penix be a franchise quarterback also, even though he's been injured? And by the way, he's not that different age-wise from Burrow.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think he's 24 going on 25, and I think Burrow's 27. Not positive of that. But, of course, Burrow started at Ohio State, finished at LSU. Like I said, he's anybody's franchise quarterback. Anybody but Kansas City would take him over who they have right now, today. And I think Penix is that same guy.
Yeah. Yeah. The injury thing, you never know, but he's obviously this past year, he was healthy. He looked pretty damn good throwing the football. We talked about him a lot here on this show oftentimes in college football, talking about how great the University of Washington was. And a lot of that having to do with Michael Penix and what he was able to do all year, along with Oregon's quarterback with Bo Nix and so forth. So I'm not even sure. I'll tell you what, I'll go out on a limb with this one, John. I think Caleb Williams is the third best quarterback coming out of the Pac-12, to be honest with you, even though the rest of the world thinks that Caleb Williams is the be-all, end-all great one. Let me tell you, 6-foot quarterbacks are usually not known to be the great quarterbacks when they get to the NFL. So I'll leave it at that.